The difference between the E, the S, the B, and the I is called emotional intelligence. It is the new subject that came out around the early 80s by a man named Gardner. And he talked about how it's actually emotional intelligence that's more important than intellectual intelligence. For instance, when somebody says, I'm looking for job security, what's really getting them is fear. And when somebody's self-employed, the reason is because they don't trust somebody else. They have to do it on their own. Their song is Nobody Does It Better, or Frank Sinatra's song, I Did It My Way. The problem with doing it that way, you have to work. You have to manage your employees. You have to do all that system. You are the system. And so for somebody to make the transition from the E, employee and self-employed, to the B side, it's really an emotional shift. And what you talk about is a fear, it's a peer pressure. With you, it's family pressure because it was a family business and all this. So the thing I talk about emotional intelligence is how do you overcome your fear? And the story that I tell people is that one day in Vietnam, I was flying my helicopter gunship off the aircraft carrier. I was up at 1,500 feet, had a crew of 5, myself and crew chief, co-pilot, and 2 gunners. And at about 1,500 feet, we were fighting for a city called Quang Tri, where we knew, this is 72, we knew we were going to lose the war in Vietnam. And suddenly the NG gauge flickered on my aircraft. And the moment, I remember in flight school when they said when that NG gauge flickered, it meant that you were about to crash. And suddenly I looked at that thing, and immediately thereafter, the engine of my aircraft quit. Now, a helicopter flying with 6 machine guns, 36 rockets, and a crew of 5 at 1,500 feet, it flies like a rock. It goes down. The tower said that up until the moment of the engine quitting, I sounded like John Wayne. So the moment after that engine quit, I sounded like a soprano and going, Mayday, Mayday, I'm going to die, Mayday. Now the point I make here is this. What they train you to do in the Marine Corps as a pilot, when your engine quits, what you're supposed to do is push the nose forward. But what happens is your emotions say pull back because you want to climb, you want more altitude, you want to feel secure again. So what kills most pilots is that split-second decision right in there. Are you going to make that decision? Are you going to pull back? Are you going to push forward? Now, as soon as that engine quit, the aircraft starts to sink. The last thing you want to do is push that nose forward. It is the very last thing you want to do. And what we were trained to do was immediately push rock the nose as fast as possible, push it down, not pull it back. The reason a pilot pushes forward is because that's how you pick up speed again. You pick up momentum. If you pull back, unfortunately you lose momentum and you fall faster. It's the strangest thing. And what happens to most people in life, when fear hits them, they don't push forward, they pull back. So some of you sitting listening to this tape right now and the fear is coming up. What are my friends going to say? What happens if I don't make it? There's no guarantees. And what most people do, which is emotional intelligence, is instead of pushing forward, they pull back. But to survive in this world, the reality is sometimes you need to push forward. Not all the time. But in this situation, flying that aircraft, engine quit, immediately I wanted to pull back. Everything emotionally said pull back, screaming, I want to live. But to live, my mind says you must rock that nose forward. And so what the pilots call is looking at the eyes of death. At 1,500 feet, I had to push that nose forward. All I saw was the South China Sea coming up at me at high speed. I had to maintain my cool, keep talking to the tower, say Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. I had to keep pushing that nose forward, keep pushing that nose forward, holding forward. Today as a business owner, my success lies when everybody else says pull back, and even when myself says pull, I say to myself pull back. I know sometimes I need to push forward and go against the very thing that seems like the most fearful, seems like the most certain, sometimes death. But that's what emotional intelligence is using your mind to overcome your fears. And I think the most important thing that your plan offers is that personal as well as emotional support, getting together, studying the same thing, listening to the tapes, having people who are pushing forward instead of pulling back. The unfortunate thing for most people in the world, especially if they're E's and S's, is most of their friends, when you talk to them, they'll initially want to pull back. But sometimes in your life, you need to make that decision. You'll say, this time I'm going to push forward. And that makes all the difference.
While the techniques and approaches suggested in this presentation may have worked for others, no one can guarantee that they will work for you. We hope, however, that the ideas presented here will assist you in developing a strong and profitable business. It is important to emphasize that success in any business opportunity does not come without hard work. Purchase of this product is optional and subject to the refund policy described in your purchase agreement for business support materials. Purchase of future business tools can be discontinued at any time.